Hello from Singapore. Welcome to In Conversation, brought to you by Swift at Cyborgs 2021. In line with this year's theme, Recharging Global Finance, we are discussing DBS's digital transformation journey, the evolution of its financial ecosystem to address key issues confronting the industry today, and its role as a technology enabler for sustainability or sustainable finance. We are here today with DBS's Group Head of Institutional Banking, Ms. Tan Su Shan. Su Shan also served as the President Commissioner of PT Bank DBS Indonesia. Prior to leading the institutional banking group business, she was responsible for leading the bank's consumer banking and wealth management business for close to a decade. The now widespread adoption of technology such as artificial intelligence, big data analytics, and edge computing will enter a new dimension with the introduction of 5G, and so will the migration to the cloud, open banking, and ecosystems. And the maturation of blockchain technology will make central bank digital currencies a reality. What will the role of banks and banking be in an era of blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and decentralized finance disruptions? DBS is a first mover in the digital transformation space or race. You started your digitalization efforts early in the 2014, at a time when fintech and tech-fin disruption was a reason for change. And they were seen as disruptor to the incumbent banks, not as the technology enabler that many see them today. COVID-19 has also accelerated this digital transformation, creating a need for operational resilience to support businesses, to access financing, and to conduct transactions. Su Shan, could you tell us about the DBS digital transformation journey, how your key initiative and technology have impacted the customers and their relationship with you?
Well, as you said, we started our digital transformation journey some 7-8 years ago. We realized that if we didn't disrupt ourselves, we will be disrupted by the fintechs or the tech fins, the big tech companies who were unbanking banking, right? So we realized very early on that, as Bill Gates famously once said, people don't need banks, but they do need banking. And if you could unbundle banking services and give the customer a really great seamless experience, backed by great journeys, great tech, seamless tech, end-to-end fulfillment, you could win this game. And banks, who had big market share in the analog physical world, were not necessarily going to prevail in the virtual world unless you pivot. But guess what? Banks have legacy systems, right? That holds us back. Banks have regulations. That also means you have to work within very tight constraints. And banks have internal compliances, and we work within country boundaries and country regulations as well, and cross-border rules. So when we set out on this journey, it's important to kind of look back at what we had set as our foundational step. And that was based on 3 big pillars. The first is to really go digital inside out. This was not digital lipstick. It wasn't just a fancy, nice looking app. It was really going into our core, into our body, and saying, look, how digital are we? And guess what? We had all these, clunky, monolithic systems that worked really well, but we had to move to microservices and ultimately to the cloud. How did we do that? That was the first pillar. The second pillar was really looking at our customer journeys. We used to be very, very bad on service. We had very low scores. And so we became really customer obsessed. And then the third was changing the culture of the bank. Right, at the time, 24,000 people, today 33,000 people. How do you compete with fintechs if you're a big organization? How do you create that spirit of innovation, experimentation in a big bank? And so that meant massive cultural shift, cultural mindset shift. So with these 3 pillars, we then set up to look at the best, right? And who were the best in the world? There were people like Google, Amazon, Netflix, Facebook, etc. So we said, well, if you put Google, fantastic in data analytics, Apple, great UX design, then you had G, you had A, you had Netflix, who were very, very good at data analytics. And then you had Facebook, very good at their social linkage. And you had Amazon, Amazon AWS, frankly, with their cloud technology. LinkedIn with their ecosystems, superb, so the social linkage. And Facebook I talked about. So we put all the big tech sort of alphabets together. It came up with Gandalf, with a D in the middle being DBS. And we wanted to be the D in Gandalf. And that was the war cry that we set up to everyone, that our CEO, our head of technology, and our head of transformation, they came up with that. And that was the rallying war cry. That led to that internal transformation. That led to us systematically looking at all our our technology stack, re-architecting them for modern services, microservices, re-architecting them, bit by bit for the cloud. So inside out, that's done. That was a hard work, actually. Then inside out, the cultural mindset shift is being done. It's a continuous journey of evolution as the world changes.
Yep.
And the customer obsession is still being done. I mean, I thought we did a very good job early on. Then that kind of, we had some minor hiccups along the way. We're re-engineering that with great gusto today. So these 3 pillars were what we set up to change, 7-8 years ago. We're still on this journey, but I think we've made some significant progress.
Okay. Tell us how this journey will continue to play out on the competitive aspect of it. The disruption from the financial technology companies or the tech fiend didn't come to its full effect in that the disruption, a lot of it came from the ability to innovate, because some people say they are less regulated, right? Especially with how they use data. But since then, the regulatory attitude has changed.
Yes.
Now the technology companies are
Equal playing field.
the playing field has leveled out. How important is that technology part, especially emerging technology like blockchain? It used to be a time when peer-to-peer was the big disruption. Now it seems that decentralized finance has become the new peer-to-peer.
Yeah.
How are you keeping ahead of this technology trends?
So Boon Pin, I often wonder if we're a bank or we're a technology company.
Yeah.
We actually today have more engineers than we do bankers. We have some 7,000-8,000 engineers in the bank. And I think tech is ubiquitous. I often say tech is business, business is tech. You can't look at tech as a back end or it's a front, middle, and back end, right? It's everything. Even for our customers, tech is everything. It's ubiquitous. So I would say that because the tech is there, it's really just getting people who understand it, getting people who don't understand it to at least understand the basics and the architecture of it, and to move forth and to experiment. And we started with us, we set up our innovation hub and we worked with all these fintech companies, small startups. We sponsored them. We had plenty of hackathons. We still do, to really get the ideation going. And constantly internally for my business, we crowdsource ideas all the time. It's really reaching out to the young. I mean, ideation comes from inside, it comes from customers. It's also this customer obsession. We're always talking to our customers. Hey, did you like that? Here's our 5-star review. Did you give us only 4 stars or 3 stars? Why? How can we get better? So this sort of constant feedback loop, this ideation from ground up, this working with third parties, setting up ecosystem partnerships means we learn. We also learn by doing. There's a lot of this. You never learn in a classroom nowadays, right? You got to really learn by doing. I remember I learned to make an app, in one of our MD offsites, because, until you do it, you don't know whether it's hard or easy, right? And then once you get the ideation, I remember we all learned about AI and machine learning by trying this Amazon Deep Racer course online. It was great fun. We all tried to move our cars, our F1 cars, using machine learning to tweak it, moving it in different directions. And we realized I don't need to code to do this, but I need to understand how the code works and how the machine learns. And when the machine learns and learns faster and faster, how powerful that is, right? And once you get that basics, and as leaders of the firm, we knew that was how it worked, then we can apply it to our customer journeys, apply it to our businesses, apply it to achieve optimal impact, maximum efficiency, and great customer journeys.
You talk about many obsession that DBS has, and one of its obsession is with measuring the contribution of your digital business, right? Digital value capture. And there are new businesses that are built around your digital capability. For example, DBS, Digital Exchange, Patio, your collaboration with Contour, and so on and so forth. And this capability have a real value, like $350 million of new businesses, an increase, or next year, increase of 200 million over this year. And they're helping you to emerge from stronger from the pandemic. Tell us, how are this creating new businesses for you? New business model, and how are they reinventing the customer experience or the customer journey?
So I think to understand that, let's look at the world. Web 1.0 was the advent of the internet. Web 2.0 was the growth of big tech. And with the growth of big tech, governments started to realize, wow, big tech has a lot of data. That data equals knowledge, equals insights, equals power. Power to shift, anything from buying behavior to groupthink to political wins. And so I think, society realized that, the old model, the old physical model where governments worked within geographic boundaries was disrupted by now Web 2.0, where big tech worked with no boundaries and a lot of data and a lot of smart insights. So what's 3.0 going to be, right? And I think 3.0 is going to be this more decentralized world where people realize, oh, do I really want to share my data with all the big tech companies, or do I want to keep that? That's mine. That's my own value system, right? And so I think the decentralized world that we are now kind of entering was born out of society's pushback on too much concentration of power in the big tech. And the decentralized world means that as long as society permissions each other, it's transparent, it's immutable, and it's so far, to varied degrees of success, been working quite well. And so we looked at the blockchain and we said, look, we've got to learn by doing. And what kind of problems can the blockchain solve, right? And we said, well, it really works very well as a proof of identity. You are who you are. You're Boon Pin, you're going to my blockchain, you're going to do a transaction, I know who you are. It can be a great proof of transaction, right? So for example, in our digital exchange that you talked about, we're able to transact buyer-seller, immutable blockchain, we know who's transacted, that's proof of transaction that happens instantly. And then there's a proof of obligation, right? The IOUs between banks, for example, with what we did with Patio, which we set up with Temasek and JP Morgan, it was really a real-time blockchain-based cross-border settlement system, right? With the blockchain, permissioned blockchain, you actually can make it instant. You don't even need trust in the system as long as you have this immutable transaction. The proof of obligation is there. You can do it. And so I think the blockchain is where we have experimented. And for trade, for example, as you rightly said, trade has been, still is, I think, to a large extent, very paper-based, global trade, supply chains. But our ability to work with some of these fintechs, Contour being one, AfriTrade being another one, is we are able to now link our suppliers and buyers seamlessly in an immutable blockchain and finance. So there's a proof of transaction, there's a proof of identity, we'll finance it. The blockchain enables us to look at all the different milestones along the trade process, and different participants can then go in, do the digital documentation, validate the trade, validate that there's no duplicated trades, finance the trade. So we've also worked with many organizations, JD, Sunfeng, Alibaba with Trustable, etc. So we've announced many blockchain-based joint ventures, ecosystem partnerships, really to digitize the trade process end-to-end, to make it less clunky, less paper-based, more seamless, and frankly safer.
You mentioned Party or the joint venture with Temasek and JP Morgan. That came off a Project Ubin by MAS, the final phase of the proof of concept. You mentioned there's a lot of experimentation around the use of blockchain, from cross-border payments to trade. Tell us, in terms of Patio, adoption is key, right?
Yes.
The traditional payment is built around correspondent banking relationship, and Swift enabled that through the platform. How is a new blockchain-based system going to work? You are out there talking about Patio, trying to get banks to use it.
Yes.
What will be critical in its adoption?
So we liken it to kind of like Star Alliance of banks. Critical to the success is adoption. And adoption means we do need participants, and you need to solve for the major use cases, right? So that's the key currencies that banks trade with every day interbank. It's dollars, euros, RMB, Sing dollars, whatever. And it's being able to settle seamlessly and real time. So our ambition and hope is to create the Star Alliance of key banks, get all the major currencies in, and our October launch is next month, and we want to get it done.
So that will come on stream October,
Yes.
and for that on you kind of build adoption.
Yep.
When we talk about JP Morgan, right? It's separated the tech capability under umbrella called Onyx. In China, Ping An Bank has one connect where it is unbundling, in a sense, its technology capability and making it available to the industry, right? Especially in the area of AI and blockchain. In Southeast Asia itself, other large banks, besides yourself, Kasikorn Bank, for example, set up a separate technology subsidiary for essentially the same purpose. Recently, DBS Group CEO Piyush Gupta talked about unbundling certain capabilities like remit as a separate entity. Talk to us about how DBS sees itself as a technology company and potentially developing and providing financial technology solutions to the industry.
So, as I said, we now have more engineers than bankers. So, often, we joke that we're a tech company today. Well, it's not a joke, it's probably true. And through that journey of creating various microservices, right, as we said, we've gone to the new tech stack and we're cloud ready. And all that knowledge and insights and ability to also morph technology, fit it for purpose, fit it for customer use cases, means that we have the knowledge and the toolkit to help other organizations that might want it, be it sort of getting into a cloud in a secure, cyber secure manner, be it being able to transact with FX seamlessly, fast, real time, be it being able to set up financial planning with AI, be it being able to do contextual loan applications and loan fulfillments, etc. So I think we've got various verticals that will be very useful to potentially other financial institutions or corporates that might need to use it. So that's something that we've certainly partnered with other banks and other ecosystems partners to give them the service.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you talk about ecosystem and you're building many ecosystems and being part of many different ecosystems as well. Tell us about your approach to ecosystem. To be successful, do you need to be in the center of every ecosystem? How do you add value and how do you extract value from the ecosystem that you participate in?
So that's a great question, and one that we have learned a lot over the years from our failures, to be honest. The way we look at ecosystems is you can either be a participant in somebody's ecosystem, or you can orchestrate it, or you can create it, right? And I run a corporate bank today, and our rubric around ecosystems is, again, 3 different pillars. The first is horizontal ecosystems. That means that one is we join somebody's big ecosystem. It could be an ERP company, it could be a big platform company. Then we work with someone who has already got customers, who have onboarded customers, and we provide whatever financial services you need. You need payments, we help. You need settlements, we help. You need FX, we help, right? So we will partner with a big platform company horizontally. Then there's the second pillar where we go deep into the industry. That means we really understand the industry upside down, right? Top to bottom, vertical integration. And we try to help the industry solve problems. So for example, the building and construction industry has a problem around supply chain, has a problem around the smaller subcontractors being paid on time, has a problem around transparency of supply chain delivery of goods and services. And so we said, well, that's a problem to solve. So we worked with a tech company called Doxa to create that supply chain transparency, to then help us finance some of the smaller players around the supply chain. And then on a similar vein, we work with big anchor companies, so big MNCs, big Asian or Western MNCs or big corporates who have multiple suppliers or multiple buyers, who find it very difficult to reach out to so many different players, hundreds and different of suppliers and buyers. And we work with them, we say, look, if you're the anchor here, we will, using data, help you to seamlessly deal with all your different partners, hundreds of different partners. We'll onboard them quickly, seamlessly using digital means. You don't have to get involved. We will make sure that their goods or supplies comes to you on time using digital and data. We will finance it so you don't have to pay, immediately. And we will ensure that, we work with you around the data collection. You can start ranking who are your good suppliers, your not so good suppliers, and credit score them accordingly. And that's been very successful. We've worked with many Western MNC partners, and even with the view of bringing sustainability into that prism. Very, very, very important in this day and age. ESG considerations are almost topmost in everyone's mind. Then the third pillar is really around what I talked about in terms of creating these trade platforms, right? So if you can work right through those ecosystems, so we're not in any of these industries, but we're seamlessly plugged in. You don't see us. I tell my colleagues, hey, let's just be the Intel chip in all our customer journeys. So we disappear. We just disappear. You don't see DBS. So sometimes I joke that DBS stands for Disappearing Bank of Singapore, but we just disappear and we fulfill. That to me is intuitive, it's invisible, it's very powerful.
Sustainability is an important topic today. How will it transform finance? For the global transaction banking business, we see the topic revolve around customer support to transition to greener operations, ESG compliance, creating, as you mentioned, more sustainable finance, sustainable supply chain. How has DBS maneuvered its technology adoption and digitalization efforts to meet customer needs in this area?
So, I think it's important to realize that the region is very diverse, right, Boon Pin? And Asia is very different from Western economies in terms of our sustainability journey. We realized this earlier on. And so our sustainability colleagues came up with a rubric, and they call it the transition framework, because we realized you can't go from brown to green overnight. That's just not possible. That means, lots of emerging markets that rely on coal power today will not have power for a while, right? And renewable sources are not, they're certainly coming in on stream very well now, but it does take time to pivot. And so recognizing that it does take time for this pivot to happen led to us creating this transition framework, where we work with our customers alongside them for this journey. It could be in shipping, where we realize you don't pivot from fossil fuel to hydrogen straight away, it's too expensive. But along the way, what kind of experimentations can we do? What kind of new LNG gas can you add in scrubbers? We realize that the different pathways for each industry to get from brown to green. And so understanding those different pathways, working with the industry players, whether it's in transportation with shipping, and there are all these industry-based sustainable experts working with them to create these glide paths using technology, because every industry will have their technology, whether it's renewable technology, wind farms, solar farms, helping the marine guys rejig their rigs for wind turbines, right, in the sea. Right? In the past, they were using rigs to dig for oil. Today, they're using rigs to create wind turbines in the sea. That takes some understanding, a lot of technology investments, and a transition, right? So the banks like us partner these players through this transition. And that means really investing time, effort, people to understanding how this framework works for every industry, what is best practice, what is the different glide paths that we can help our customers with, and partnering the industry leaders and frankly helping the smaller players alongside each industry ecosystem to get along the right glide path and financing it as they move. So it's been a hell of a journey, but I will tell you, I've been pleasantly surprised by the speed of the pickup in Asia. Really pleasantly surprised. We set ourselves up to do 25 billion by year 2024 in sustainable financing. We're already at 30 and we're at 2021. So we've doubled our target to 50 billion. I think we'll get there because everybody sees the vision and everybody's executing to the vision, right? And every the industry leaders of today have taken up the leadership and the mental, and governments. I mean, governments have seen the impact of climate change is so obvious to all of us today. Floods, fires, bushfires, incredible climate extremities. That is not tolerable, not tolerable. We can't accept it, and we've got to do something about it. And banks play a pivotal role in really moving capital in the right direction and recognizing that the direction is a transition and helping that transition and pushing it along the right way.
And DBS is right in the thick of that, building your business around this key area of sustainability. And thank you so much today for sharing your experience and insights into how DBS has very systematically and very structured. We hear for every initiative that you work on, whether it's digital transformation or how you view ecosystem, especially the transformational nature of blockchain itself and sustainability, how DBS takes a far-sighted and very structured approach to how you make that part of your core business.
Well, thank you. It was great fun to share with you and with everyone else.
And we hope that our Swift Cyborgs audience will benefit from your insights and experience as well. And thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for having me.